Supplies, rope, cord, saw, cutting tools, medical gloves, bags, tape, surgical drapes. That is not a hardware store receipt. It is a checklist, written in all capital letters inside a Microsoft Word document, saved on a basement hard drive in a house in Massapequa Park, Long Island. The document had headings: supplies, problems, body prep, things to remember, pre-prep. It read like a project plan, because it was one. It was a blueprint for murder, written by a man who designed buildings for a living. His name does not matter yet. What matters is what came next in the document. Under problems, the first entry was DNA, then tire marks, bloodstains, fingerprints. Under, things to remember, sound travels, use heavier rope, get sleep before hunt, too tired, create problems. More sleep and noise control equals more playtime. The man who wrote those words ran an architecture firm in Midtown Manhattan. He designed floor plans, calculated load tolerances, filed building permits. He commuted on the Long Island Railroad. He had a wife and 2 children. He went to church. His neighbors called him quiet. On April 8, 2026, he stood in a courtroom in Riverhead, New York, and the judge asked him 7 times whether he had intentionally caused the death of another human being. 7 times, in the same flat, steady voice, he said the word guilty. The families in the gallery were weeping. His ex-wife clutched tissues. He showed nothing. And then, without being charged, he admitted to an 8th name that no one in that courtroom expected to hear. Rex Heuermann was 62 years old, an architect, the son of an aerospace engineer. He ran a small firm called RH Consultants and Associates out of a cramped office near Penn Station. He took the train every morning from Massapequa Park. He came home every evening. His neighbors saw a tall, heavy-set man who kept to himself, mowed his lawn, lived an ordinary suburban life. Quiet, well-liked, unremarkable. But the house told a different story. Investigators who searched it after his arrest found it deteriorating, cluttered, dark. Inside were 300 firearms, 58 hard drives, 27 computers, 46 cell phones, 16 cameras, 42 USB drives, and buried in the unallocated space of a basement hard drive, the deleted planning document recovered by forensic analysts, labeled HK2002-04. His wife, Asa Ellerup, traveled for work. Prosecutors found that every killing aligned with her travel schedule. When she was out of town, the burner phones activated. When she returned, they went silent. He planned murders the way he planned construction timelines, around external constraints, around availability, around risk. He purchased prepaid phones specifically to contact the women he would kill. After each murder, the burner phone was discarded. A new one appeared before the next. The phones pinged cell towers in Manhattan and in the neighborhoods around his home. The pattern was invisible for 30 years. It only became visible when someone thought to overlay the data. During the day, he reviewed construction blueprints and attended meetings with contractors. During certain nights, when his wife's flight departed and the house emptied, he activated a disposable phone and contacted women advertising escort services online. The contrast was not dramatic. It was administrative. He moved between his 2 lives the way a commuter moves between platforms, without urgency, without visible transition, with the kind of practiced ease that only comes from repetition. December 2010. A police dog searching for a missing woman named Shannon Gilbert trailed along the scrub brush beside Ocean Parkway, an isolated highway running along Long Island's South Shore. The dog stopped, then stopped again, and again, and again. In the span of 3 days, officers found the remains of 4 women, all within a short stretch of road, all wrapped in burlap, all bound at the head and legs. They became known as the Gilgo 4, but the first killing had happened 17 years earlier. Sandra Costilla, 28 years old, a native of Trinidad and Tobago living in New York, strangled in November 1993. Her remains were found by hunters in a wooded area in Southampton. For decades, her case was not connected to the others. Valerie Mack was 24. She had a son whose name was tattooed near her right ankle. She disappeared sometime in the fall of 2000. Her body was dismembered. Her skull, hands, and right foot were not found until 2011. She was not identified until 2020. For 20 years, she was known only as Jane Doe number 6. Jessica Taylor was 20. She vanished in July 2003 while working as an escort in New York City. Partial remains were found in Manorville. The rest were found years later near the Gilgo Beach stretch. She was dismembered in a manner consistent with the entries in the planning document, under the heading Body Prep, Remove Head and Hands. Maureen Brainerd Barnes was 25. She had 2 children. She disappeared in July 2007. Her sister Missy made a promise to never stop searching for justice. It took 19 years. Melissa Barthelemy was 24. She had moved from Buffalo to the Bronx after graduating from cosmetology school, looking for work at a nice salon. After she vanished in July 2009, her teenage sister received a series of taunting phone calls from a man using Melissa's cell phone. The calls were traced to Midtown Manhattan. The caller eventually told the sister her sibling was dead. Megan Waterman was 22. She had a daughter named Liliana who would one day stand outside a courthouse and say she was very, very thankful for a guilty plea. Amber Lynn Costello was 27. Her aunt described her as a sweet, loving, giving young woman. Each of them was strangled. Each of them was found along Ocean Parkway. Each of them had been targeted because someone believed they would not be missed. The investigation stalled for over a decade. Tips came in, suspects were named and cleared. Another man, John Bitrolf, was convicted of killing 2 sex workers in the same area, and for years some investigators believed the cases were connected. The case haunted Suffolk County. Then, in 2022, District Attorney Ray Tierney reopened the files. A new task force was formed. They started with a detail from an old witness tip: a Chevrolet Avalanche, a distinctive pickup truck rarely purchased on Long Island, seen near the location where Amber Costello disappeared in 2010. The vehicle registration database returned one name in the area: Rex Heuermann. Investigators began building a profile: cell tower data, burner phone records, his wife's travel schedule. The overlap was precise, but they needed physical evidence. In January 2023, they got it. A pizza box discarded in a trash can outside Heuermann's Midtown Manhattan office. DNA from the crust matched genetic material found on burlap used to wrap the victims. On July 13, 2023, Heuermann was arrested outside his office during his evening commute. His mugshot showed a man who looked like every other rider on the Long Island Railroad. He was 59 years old. He had been killing for 30. The planning document was recovered from a deleted file on one of 58 hard drives seized from Heuermann's basement. It was a Word document written in all capital letters, created in the year 2000, modified until at least 2002. Investigators believe it was used across the entire span of the killings. It was organized like an engineering manual. Under pre-prep, there were reminders to scout an area for surveillance cameras before approaching a target. Under prep, instructions to build a table with a crossbar underneath, designed to support heavier weight. Under supplies, the checklist included rope, cord, cutting tools, surgical drapes, cat litter, tarps, medical gloves. Under problems, the list was methodical: DNA, tire marks, blood stains, fingerprints, being pulled over by police. Each problem had its own set of countermeasures. There was a section called Things to Remember, Sound Travels, Use Heavier Rope, Have a Story Set. Under Body Prep, Packaging for Transport, Remove Head and Hands. Investigators matched these entries directly to the condition of the victim's remains. The document referenced specific pages from a book by former FBI profiler John Douglas, Mind Hunter, passages about the personality types of serial killers and the use of mutilation and sexual violence. The district attorney called it a blueprint. The task force called it homework. It was not the writing of a man who lost control. It was a manual, updated, refined, pressure-tested against real outcomes. The man who created load calculations for Manhattan buildings applied the same logic to disposing of human beings. And on the same devices, investigators found something else. Heuermann had been searching for podcasts and documentaries about his own case. He viewed hundreds of images of the murdered victims and their families. He searched for articles about the very task force that was investigating him. He was monitoring the investigation the way an architect monitors a construction site, checking for structural problems, looking for cracks. The pattern was consistent across every killing. He used a burner phone to contact the women through online advertisements. He lured them with the promise of money. He brought them to a location in Nassau County. He strangled them. And then the system took over. Some were wrapped in burlap and bound with tape at the head, midsection, and legs. Some were dismembered. He transported the remains and disposed of them along stretches of road and coastline where discovery would be delayed. Ocean Parkway, Manorville, Southampton, Fire Island. He chose locations that matched entries in his planning document under a section prosecutors determined to mean dump sites. The system worked for 30 years because it was designed by someone who understood how systems fail. He mitigated for DNA. He mitigated for witness identification. He mitigated for cell tower tracking by using disposable phones. He kept his own phone at home during the killings. He timed every act to coincide with his wife's absence. When the task force finally overlaid the data, burner phone activations, his wife's flight records, the dates of each disappearance, the alignment was exact. The system had not failed. It had simply never been examined as a system. Asa Ellerup married Rex Heuermann and spent 27 years in that house. She filed for divorce after his arrest. Their daughter, Victoria, was seen arriving at the courthouse on the day of the plea. Outside, after the hearing, Ellerup spoke to reporters. "My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable." Her attorney said she never wanted to believe the man she was married to was capable of these acts. The neighbors said the same things neighbors always say. They had no idea. He was quiet. He kept to himself. One former colleague described him as unremarkable, the phrase that kept appearing in every interview, every statement, every profile. Quiet and well-liked. The architecture of normalcy was as meticulous as everything else. It had load-bearing walls and clean sight lines, and no indication of what was underneath. Suffolk County Police Commissioner Kevin Catalina called him a sadistic, soulless, murderous monster. District Attorney Tierney said, "He walked among us, play-acting as a normal suburban dad." The distance between those two descriptions, the neighbor and the monster, is the distance this story lives inside. Every seat in the courtroom was taken. 2 overflow rooms were set up to accommodate the public. Families of the victims sat in the gallery. Law enforcement filled the rows behind the prosecution. Reporters lined the walls. The judge asked Rex Heuermann whether he understood his rights. He said yes. Whether he felt it was in his best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial. He said yes. Then the district attorney began. Victim by victim, name by name. Did you contact Sandra Castilla with the intent to cause her death? Guilty. Did you strangle Valerie Mack? Guilty. Did you cause the death of Jessica Taylor? Guilty. Maureen Brainerd Barnes? Guilty. Melissa Barthelemy? Guilty. Megan Waterman? Guilty. Amber Lynn Costello? Guilty. 7 times. The same flat tone, the same steady voice. No hesitation, no visible emotion. The families gasped, some wept openly. His ex-wife held tissues to her face. His defense attorney, Michael Brown, spoke afterward. He said Heuermann wanted to accept responsibility. He said his client wanted to spare the families the ordeal of a trial. He called it cathartic. The word landed in the hallway outside the courtroom, like something that did not belong there. Karen Vergata was 34 years old. She had 2 sons. She disappeared in April of 1996. She was strangled, her body was dismembered, her legs were found in a plastic bag in Brookhaven later that month. Her skull was found near Gilgo Beach 15 years later, in 2011. She was not identified until 2023 through genetic genealogy. For 27 years, she had no name. Heuermann was never charged with her murder. But in the courtroom on April 8th, as part of the plea agreement, the judge told Heuermann he would now admit guilt in the death of Karen Vergata, and he did. Not as a formal charge, not as a conviction, as a condition of the deal. In exchange, prosecutors agreed not to file additional charges for her killing. His attorney said Heuermann has agreed to cooperate with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. He is obligated to be truthful, accurate, and complete. The prosecutors left a sentence hanging in the press conference afterward. If new victims are linked, new charges remain possible. The planning document was created in 2000. Sandra Costilla was killed in 1993. The document was a refinement, not a beginning. The question it opens is the one nobody asked him in court. How many names were there before the document existed? 3 consecutive life sentences without parole. A consecutive sentence of 100 years to life. No appeal? He will spend the rest of his existence in a cell, cooperating with federal agents who will study him the way he once studied the pages of Mindhunter. Robert Kolker, who wrote the book Lost Girls about the case, said the killer chose his victims because he thought they would not be missed. And the tragedy is that for many years, he was right. But they refused to stay silent. Their families refused. And eventually, the evidence itself refused. The blueprint contained entries for everything: how to find them, how to prepare, how to kill, how to transport, how to dispose, how to avoid detection. It listed problems and solutions, supplies and procedures, lessons learned and refinements for next time. It was complete, organized, methodical. It was the work of a man who understood that systems succeed when every variable is accounted for. But there was no entry for why, no heading, no checklist, no explanation. 8 women are dead. Their names are Sandra, Valerie, Jessica, Maureen, Melissa, Megan, Amber, and Karen. Their family sat in a courtroom and watched a man say the word guilty without changing his expression. And the document that explained everything explained nothing at all. If you enjoy dark mysteries and forbidden history, subscribe to the Black Archive.